Alright, I'm still working on the Steyr 80 Kropatcheck rifle. As you can see here, the ones with the red dots are Berdan primers. The ones that are not colored, except for these two, these here, have been converted to boxer primers. Now these Berdan primers are over 100 years old. These bullets were made around 1903. I pulled the old loads out and neck sized them. I did a slug on the bore. The bore measures about 331 thousandths diameter. So I got a 338 220 grain bullet mold, sized it down to 331, neck sized the cartridge, and shot the Berdan primers first. You get some click bangs, inconsistent ignition, but it told me that it worked. Then I switched to the CCI number 200 large rifle primers. As you can see, there's a bushing in there to accept the primer, and I'm using H4198, and in this trial I'm using 24.5 grains of powder with an overall length of 2 inches 970, and my speed is a little slow, but I'm getting some relatively consistent groups at 50 yards, and we'll take a look at that in a second. As you can see, I loaded up 50 with the boxer primer conversion. I used two different types of material for the bushing, aluminum and brass. Doesn't seem to matter, they both work well. You can see that I've got good indentation, and every one I've shot so far has survived. Some of the ones that I fired with the old Berdan primers, I had case failures, and I'll probably have some case failures with these. But I nailed these after firing them with the Berdan primers, and
1 minute ceasefire, 1 minute,
and cleaned them out. So right now, I would call this a success. I'm going to walk down there as soon as the range is clear and show you the groups. They're not bad for this old rifle. I'm sure there can be some improvement, but I'm calling this whole project a success. Okay, as you can see, we're all inside the red here at 50 yards. We got grouping. I'd call that grouping. Considering what I started with when I started this project, I'm thinking that we're pretty good. Maybe I just need to adjust the speed a little bit. Originally, the Kropatcheck, according to what I've been reading, only ran around 1,700 feet per second, and that was considered high velocity for the time, so for this particular rifle. So moving on. I know I mentioned that I turned the necks on these, but in the reading I've done on this particular cartridge, the original cartridge was, I'm thinking, decimal point 321 diameter, maybe 318. I'm not really clear on that. I do know it was an expanding base bullet, which was typical for that era with these guns, and it was also a black powder cartridge, so when they fired, it would expand the base and engage the rifling. Now with this larger bullet, it will not chamber unless you turn this neck down a little bit to get some clearance in the chamber. and it works pretty well. You cannot buy, unless you order a special mold, the bullet similar to what they shot back in 1880 when this gun was made. And again, I'm going to call this a success.